The drive into Richards Bay is deceiving. Lined with sugarcane fields, timber plantations, and coastal forests, it feels like a rural escape until you look closer. Behind the lush greenery lies one of South Africa's most strategically vital enterprises, Richards Bay Minerals, a subsidiary of Rio Tinto and a world leader in titanium dioxide feedstock, rutile, and zircon. RBM pumps nearly 18 billion rand a year into the economy, employing close to 5,000 people and paying over 1 billion rand in annual taxes. Its presence sustains entire communities in northern KwaZulu-Natal. But this lifeline has become a curse. Instead of being an anchor of development, RBM has become the epicenter of a violent war involving crime syndicates, corrupt traditional structures, and ruthless hitmen. The troubles trace back to the lucrative community trusts set up to ensure local residents benefited from RBM's success. Since 2009, roughly 530 million rand has been paid into these trusts, managed by traditional leaders and community trustees. But by 2015, evidence of serious mismanagement and personal enrichment surfaced. Payments were halted. Trustees and leaders were accused of siphoning money for themselves, while ordinary community members saw little benefit. This decision created enemies. For syndicates and power brokers in Richards Bay, the control of those trusts, along with RBM's procurement contracts worth millions, meant power, wealth, and political leverage. By 2016, the violence began. That year, Ronnie Nzimanda, RBM's general manager for human resources, was assassinated at his home. The message was clear. Executives standing in the way of syndicate interests were expendable. 5 years later, in May 2021, the conflict escalated dramatically. Nico Swart, RBM's general manager for operations, was shot dead in his car while driving to work. His bullet-riddled body was a chilling reminder that no one in RBM's leadership was safe. The murders rattled the company and reverberated through the global mining industry. At the 2024 Mining Indaba, RBM's managing director Werner Duvenhaag admitted what insiders had long whispered. The killings weren't about delayed trust payments, they were about procurement control. Syndicates wanted dominance over who supplied goods and services to RBM, a pipeline worth billions. Executives who stood in the way were eliminated. Meanwhile, the Department of Mineral Resources attempted to downplay the crisis. In June 2021, it issued a statement acknowledging that the killings taint the image of mining in South Africa. But critics, including investors, dismissed this as inadequate. Words wouldn't stop the bullets, and by then RBM executives were traveling in armored vehicles with armed escorts. The climate of fear wasn't confined to company executives. Communities, too, were torn apart. In the rural village of Mpembeni, just south of Richards Bay, opposition to a mysterious land and oil development project triggered a wave of assassinations in 2018. On the 10th of July 2018, Gashega Nkwanyana, a youth leader and RBM subcontractor, was gunned down. 3 days later, Ntutuko Dladla, active in the local business forum, was killed in his car. The violence spread. In December 2019, community leader Meshach Mbuyazi was murdered after raising concerns about trust fund abuse. In July 2020, Judia Mbuyazi, linked to the same disputes, was also assassinated. Each death deepened the shadow of fear across Richards Bay. By 2023, the face of the underworld in Richards Bay was unmistakable. Nkululeko Mkhize, a flamboyant gangster with deep political ties. He lived large, flaunted wealth, and commanded loyalty through violence. Police described him as the mastermind of syndicate control in the area. His reign ended in September 2023, when he was killed in a police shootout. But his death didn't end the bloodshed. If anything, it fragmented the underworld, with multiple factions now vying for dominance. The toll is staggering. By 2020, watchdogs like the GI TOC had already counted at least 38 assassinations and 14 attempted assassinations in mining-linked conflicts across KwaZulu-Natal since 2016. And RBM sat at the heart of it. In August 2024, the violence once again tore through the company's orbit. Sipho Zweletemba Masuku, an RBM contractor, was gunned down in Mirensi, Richards Bay. His Toyota Fortuner was riddled with bullets, though a passenger miraculously survived. 3 months later, in November 2024, police arrested a 27-year-old alleged hitman, Halalisani, in Gauteng. When apprehended, he had a 9mm pistol and 3 AK-47 rifles, one directly linked to Masuku's murder. Despite this arrest, many remain skeptical. Over a decade of violence has produced few convictions. Syndicates appear to operate with impunity, shielded by political protection and police corruption. For residents of Richards Bay, the refrain is the same. Executives and contractors are being hunted, and the killers are seldom brought to justice. By 2025, Richards Bay stands as a paradox, a city enriched by minerals yet crippled by bloodshed. Executives, traditional leaders, contractors, and even youth activists have all been targeted. Billions in mineral wealth continue to flow out of the dunes, but the cost is measured in funerals, bullet casings, and a community caught in the crossfire of a mafia war. By the mid-2010s, the killings around Richards Bay Minerals were no longer isolated tragedies. They had become part of a systematic pattern of violence, woven into the fabric of procurement battles, political deals, and mafia-like control of the company's operations. At the core of this bloodshed was the procurement economy. Every year, RBM's contracts for transport, security, maintenance, and construction were worth hundreds of millions of rands. Whoever controlled these contracts controlled livelihoods, access to cash, and a steady flow of resources. Procurement became the new gold rush, except the prize was delivered not by shovels, but by assassins' bullets. Community-based business forums began emerging around Richards Bay, demanding inclusion in RBM supply chains. In principle, this was fair. Local small businesses wanted a share of the economic pie. But in practice, the forums often became fronts for extortion rackets. Contractors were threatened, deals sabotaged, and executives intimidated. A chilling example came in 2018 at Mpembeni village, just outside Richards Bay. A shadowy development project, said to involve foreign investors in oil or mining, sparked fierce disputes. One of the most dangerous fault lines was inside the Mbuyazi clan, historically linked to the land where RBM operates. Two rival factions, each claiming legitimate leadership, clashed over who controlled access to trust money and procurement deals. On the 22nd of December 2019, Meshach Mbuyazi was assassinated after openly challenging how RBM benefits were distributed. In July 2020, another family member, Judia Mbuyazi, was killed in a similar dispute. The killings fractured the community and entrenched the idea that leadership disputes would be settled not in courts, but in ambushes. Inside RBM itself, the climate grew unbearable. Executives lived behind walls, moved in convoys, and avoided predictable routines. The murder of Ronin Zimanda in 2016 and Nico Swart in May 2021 were stark warnings. No title or corporate shield could protect you. The killings pushed RBM to halt operations multiple times, most notably in July 2021, when escalating violence forced Rio Tinto to suspend production. Every shutdown cost hundreds of millions in lost revenue and rattled global supply chains for titanium dioxide. Investors began questioning whether South Africa was simply too unstable for safe mining.
Mining giant Richards Bay Minerals in KwaZulu-Natal has resumed operations almost a month after shutting down. The company was closed after a group of armed men attacked workers en route to and leaving work. The company employs over 5,000 workers and is one of the major contributors to tax in the province.
For your time, last time you indicated that you will only resume with operations once it's safe to do so. Do you feel it is safe now for your employees?
As you know, two of our colleagues got injured during all these disruptions, and our people's safety and security remains the primary concern to us. So we're quite happy that due to the intervention from the Premier and the various government departments, as you just mentioned, even the Office of the President, that they've made some very good engagements, and we now feel very comfortable that we can return to safe operations again.
The state's response was halting at best. The Department of Mineral Resources called for calm, but communities saw no protection. Police often arrived after the fact, with investigations stalling in the courts. For every arrest, like the November 2024 capture of hitman Halali Sani, there were dozens of unsolved killings. By 2025, Analysts estimated that over 1 billion rand in contracts annually at RBM are effectively under the influence of syndicates. Kickbacks, threats, and manipulation dictated who won tenders. Ordinary businesses stood no chance without paying tribute. And at the heart of this system is a chilling reality. Murder had become a business tool. Disputes are no longer about merit or fairness, but about who is willing to pull the trigger. The procurement mafia have turned Richards Bay into a battlefield, with RBM both the prize and the casualty. The killings around Richards Bay Minerals reveal how a project meant to uplift communities has instead become a battleground for power, contracts, and survival. From executives like Nico Swart to contractors like Saifo Masuku, lives have been cut short in a cycle of violence that shows no sign of slowing. Arrests of hitmen offer brief flashes of justice, but the masterminds remain in the shadows, shielded by politics and profit. As billions continue to flow through RBM, one question hangs over Richards Bay and South Africa as a whole. Will the rule of law ever rise above the rule of the gun?